lot of these buildings have broken windows, there's graffiti on them, it's not really an inviting place. There are tracks over here, there's a junkyard there's a housing project over there. These are both Brother M300s, 5-axis mill turn machines, but our material removal rate for us still feels really solid. John and I didn't want to do anything that wasn't going to be legit. Like, we weren't going to start a fake business here. We're embracing the Philly mentality and the Philly culture, which it's very outspoken, it's in your face. Why can't we do it here? Like, this is an area that thrived with manufacturing. Yeah, it was a little, maybe a little larger than what we needed, but you know, we're here to do big things.
I was only getting $9 an hour.
But no, our rate at which we were spending money was far faster than cash was coming in the door.
Working with my hands is what I was really looking for. And, I mean, it was customer service, soul crushing.
It was 40 degrees in here. We were freezing our asses off.
Yeah.
There's almost no better feeling than, like, guys, we might have this.
This is a cool one. We're in Philadelphia. We're at American Precision Works. These guys are early in their journey, but they're sending it here and they're doing it legit. So excited to get into this one, and we'll see what they got for us.
My name's Matt Bruner. This is my business partner, John Selly. Our new business is American Precision Works. We are a machining services provider here in Southwest Philadelphia, very much in the midst of an urban landscape. We hit go on this little experiment at the end of October of 2024. So what are we at, 7 months total as a business. First machines were installed at the end of January. I think, Chad, you were out here in February. It was probably still freezing in the shop. Now we're in late June, dealing with the opposite problem. It's pretty damn hot. But 5 months of keeping the spindles turning. Certainly been an adventure so far. A lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, we're still so far from where we want to be. I think now we've proven that we can execute, we can deliver good parts to our customers. We're starting to see some of the results from our efforts, but still have a long way to go. So I think this is kind of an inside look at the early steps, and you know, if we're still around in a few years, maybe Chad will have you back to.
Cool. So you guys are in urban Philly, kind of in the heart of Philly. You were talking to me about kind of your vision, your thoughts behind putting it here. Can you talk to that?
Both John and I have been around the machining industry for pretty much our whole, at least adult lives. I grew up around it. I've been lucky to work with hundreds of different shops throughout my past career. I'm sure, like you have, Chad, you know, you go into these facilities, they do remarkably cool work. They're doing very meaningful manufacturing. They're often good at what they do, but so often they fit a similar mold. Like, if you had to describe a machine shop, it's probably in a suburban or a rural area, probably in a back of a nondescript business park. The people that work in the machine shop are, you know, often of the same gender, the same race, the same age group. When I was selling technology to so many of these manufacturers, you hear all the time, it's we just can't find people to fill these roles. We can't.
Every shop.
It's a huge barrier to growth, and the kind of this mentality that, like, no one wants to work anymore, or people don't work like they used to. I guess being a millennial, like, I almost took that as like an insult. Like, I see it differently. Like, I'm a resident in a city that has a wide range of people, that is younger than, you know, maybe the average U.S. demographic. It's, in many areas, including this one, it's lower income than the average U.S. demographic. And, you know, when I hear folks say, like, we need to get different people into the manufacturing industry, but then they continue to operate in places that are not necessarily accessible to the exact people that they want to attract, I just can't help myself but think, like, why can't we do it here? Like, this is an area that thrived with manufacturing from the mid 1800s to, like, middle to latter half of the 20th century. You know, yes, it had a bit of a falling out, and you see kind of the industrial decay around us. You know, we're in a 100,000+ square foot factory, used to employ 120, 150 people. We've got a Ryerson steel facility that's just been vacant for who knows how many years just down the road. A lot of these buildings have broken windows, there's graffiti on them. It's not really an inviting place, but the infrastructure is here to still support manufacturing. And we're already seeing within this community that people are excited about the investments that we're making. And we're bringing folks through that maybe they're not ready to go day one with the exact skills that we'll require, but it's really on us to create an environment where we can help them succeed and, you know, find that manufacturing opportunity where a lot of other doors may have been closed. Well, let's just go to a spot where people probably need more help and can really benefit from these manufacturing roles. So I'll get off my soapbox for a second. I think it's a mission that we're starting. I think it's worth noting we're not there yet. Like, we've got a Matt, a John, our operator Tom. We'll touch on his story in a minute.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't created that diverse environment, but we're on a mission to get there, and it is going to be an important part of our growth.
All right, I had to take the opportunity to plug my day job as a salesman for Campro USA, which is what allows me to get around to all these shops. I am in the showroom in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where we have machines under power and parts in stock. We do service out of here as well. Box and linear wave vertical machining centers. Same thing on the turning centers. We have full 5-axis, and then all the way up to big double column bridge mills. Machines come with FANUC control. I sell direct from the factory in East Pennsylvania. The bang for the buck is almost impossible to beat. If you're somewhere else in the country and are interested, I'm happy to connect you with one of our dealers. Okay, thanks. Back to the video. So, like you said, I know a lot of machine shops in the area, and you mentioned where those machine shops are. And like just looking at my map of like potential customers, they're all like outside of Philly, like collared around Philly. And then you get into the heart of Philly, and it's just like nothing. It's crazy.
I mean, one of the first LinkedIn posts I put up when we decided to go on this was partially my territory map when I was selling into the local region. And I think I had, within about a 90-minute drive, 300 mapped accounts that are running CNC machinery in Southeast PA, in South Jersey. Of those accounts, 6 were in the city of Philadelphia, which is synonymous with the county. It's a place with a population of 1.5 million people. And then meanwhile, you've got all these more suburban and rural shops saying, oh yeah, we can't find the people to work. Like, at a certain point, it just becomes a numbers game. And I think of this as like our little bubble here. If we draw a 3-mile circle around the spot we're standing, there are no other machine shops.
Right.
But there are over 500,000 people. There's a phenomenal trade school that's teaching people to use CNC machinery. There are a couple top-tier universities in Penn and Drexel. There's an international airport. Like, you can get anywhere in the country and be extremely accessible. There's a train station that'll get you from DC to New York, both in a couple hours. Like, it's a really unique environment that I think, our strategy of winning right now doesn't revolve around curb appeal. Like, it's not a pretty facility. The neighborhood isn't going to be comfortable for a lot of people that are, working at maybe those shops in the suburban areas.
Right.
But for us, we see our recipe of winning by tapping into maybe a new workforce and then winning talent with advanced machinery, modern business systems that are primarily digital rather than paper-based. Being very results-driven as opposed to, say, just maybe some of the legacy manufacturing jobs where the expectation was that you just stand in front of a machine for 10+ hours at a stretch and take as few breaks as possible. Like, we're actually going to measure our results based on performance and hopefully create some opportunity for our employees to share in that performance. John and I have separate areas of expertise, and like the Venn diagram of skills has very little intersection. Like, I consider it my responsibility to go out and sell, to pitch the vision, to make sure I find really exciting projects to keep John busy. I'll do the admin work, I'll work on putting the systems in place, and we'll always talk strategy together. But when it comes to writing code and finding a way to make a really challenging part, like, John is going to fulfill that end of the bargain, and he's also going to be responsible for training new folks to the industry. For that reason, I think we make a good team, and like, that's part of what gives me confidence for our own ability to sustain in this industry.
I think training is, in working with these young people that we're going to be bringing through the shop, is going to become my new passion in a way. Just being able to develop people and see them grow. And I was in somewhat of that role at my last shop. I worked my way into a supervisor role, and grew a couple of guys out of trade schools into a I think really competent machinists, and I think that brings a lot of value to them. Also brings me a lot of satisfaction.
Fulfilling work. Right? Give somebody tangible skills. Teach a man to fish, kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. So like I always liked making things. And I went to school for math, thinking I'm going to get an analyst job, pay the bills, be
an actuary.
Be an actuary. I thought that I would do that, and then I went on some interviews. It just seemed so boring, but none of those interviews really panned out into anything. But I needed to get some money coming in, so I took a job at a machine shop, blasting parts for $9 an hour. It was like 2013, and the job market was kind of kind of low. So
How many hours a week were you working?
55 mandatory hours a week. So, you know.
So you got a STEM degree, and you ended up blasting parts at a shop for $9 an hour.
Yeah, and you know what? It probably wasn't the smartest decision that I made, but I walked into the shop, and at the time, I was building guitars, and I was looking into building my own CNC router to start cutting my guitar bodies out. But then I walked into that shop, and I saw, you know, Mazak Integrex and Swiss machines,
Right.
and you know, it's just captivated by what a real CNC machine looks like and what the capabilities of that machine are. And just being in the space was, I kind of liked it.
You fell in love with it.
Yeah, I fell in love with it. And then, you know, but the work was grueling. It was, you know, 55 hours a week in a micro bead blaster, blasting these parts. But I don't think I would trade that experience. You know, I probably did that for maybe 6 to 7 months of just that. But seeing that, what it takes to process a part fully, get all the burrs off, you know, and how picky the requirements are for these parts, it was a great foundation to build off of and work my way into an operator role in a few months. Then eventually moving to night shift, where I was, you know, keeping 7 Mazak Integrexes running overnight, you know, with the help of a couple other guys. But, you know, just making a couple offsets and loading bars, I wasn't doing much else than that. I wasn't, you know, I was still pretty green.
I mean, you can run. If they trusted you with 7 Integrexes, that's a lot.
Well, they run themselves for the most part,
Yeah.
but you know, I just have to check parts, and
Still.
but there, you know, learning how to check those high tolerance parts was a key.
This was
key
medical
development.
stuff?
All medical.
Yeah, it's a lot of stainless, high temp alloys, probably, right?
Yeah,
Titaniums.
Yeah, they had great inspection equipment, and you know,
Top tier parts, really.
top tier parts. It was a really nice facility, and yeah. So when I went to night shift, after about a year and a half, my review came up, and they offered me an extra $1 an hour. So I had to, at that point, I knew I had to leave.
So they were going to bump you from 9 to 10?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It's pretty terrifying. Like, I think John and I, having been in the industry, like I didn't touch too much on my background, but I grew up around a shop. My father started a machining business, grew it from a couple machines to close to 40, sold to private equity, and you know, just getting to kind of have a seat at the table through that period of growth. Like, I felt like I was given a playbook for, you know, how a business like this can operate.
Right.
And you know, I, for a number of years, talked myself out of buying machines or taking this leap, and there were 1,000 reasons not to do it, but I guess it, you know, finally came up to a point where it's like John and I have the resources to make this happen, and you hear stories. I mean, you highlighted a number of them in your videos. Like, people start and build successful businesses in this space with, I think, you know, a fraction of the starting point that we were given, just you know, from having been around it and, you know, worked in high performing environments. You know, I really feel like John and I had a good playbook to start with, but it's still terrifying. I mean, it's very capital intensive. We're making big investments. It's not dipping a toe in the water and you know, setting up a machine in a garage, which I fully support that path. I've heard the analogy, like, you know, starting a business, it's like building a car as you're trying to drive it. I really feel like we jumped off a cliff and tasked ourselves with building an airplane. Like, just our rate at which we were spending money was far faster than cash was coming in the door, and you know, we had to just trust that the work we were doing to set this foundation was going to create meaningful revenue opportunities, meaningful customer relationships. But man, it was scary. Just like thinking back to those days in February and March when it was 40 degrees in here. We were freezing our asses off. Like, hard to program because John's fingers were like they're shivering.
On my desk, I could use my keyboard.
I think we were kind of wondering, like, yeah, maybe we should have just gone out and bought a shop, or
stuck with your solid paying job with benefits and insurance, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, that was definitely a reason for not wanting to start a business, is that, you know, we both had it pretty good and we had good career paths in front of us. In a way, we're like maybe too comfortable for that leap to be worth it. But like a lot of people in my life, I'm not sure for you, John, like a lot of people were telling me, like, yeah, you should do it. Probably the only person who, in a way, talked me out of it was my dad. Like the person who
Who
had
had
actually
done
done that. He's like, it's like, it's scary, and there's just far more stuff that can go wrong. And I think, you know, even where he got to participate in a lot of upside related to his business and change lives to the people he hired, you know, I just know that there were probably days early in his journey where he was questioning, like, was this the right move to start a machine shop with 2 kids? And
Right.
like, it just, I don't know. For us, I guess there's a light at the end of the tunnel now, and I you know, really believe this will pay off. But there aren't too many days that went by, especially early, where I thought, man, we should have just bought a business, and it would have been less expensive, would have had, you know, a different set of challenges. But you know, one of those challenges hopefully wouldn't be cash flow and customer
Right.
acquisition. And you know, at the same time, I'm thankful that we stuck to our mission and it chose to build a business that, just based on location, I think is really unique, because there wasn't a shop to buy that would have
Right.
helped us, you know, fit the bill of
Yeah.
embracing a new workforce and, you know, building a foundation of talent to help us grow.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that long-term vision is, I think, going to be huge for you guys. Who knows? I mean, who am I to say? But every shop can't find people. They can't find talent. Well, you guys maybe just found a treasure trove, so.
Well, I think so. I mean, it's inspiring because we had a couple kids that we interviewed just last week, and they were from the community college program. They grew up in this neighborhood. Like, one of them went to high school 3 blocks away, you know, so they're comfortable in this environment. And both of them brought so much enthusiasm and energy, and were like, you know, they had no clue that people were making parts for outer space or autonomous vehicles, like in Kings Essing. That it was painful in a way to like send them home and say, like, yeah, you know, we want to keep you on your radar, and maybe in a month we'll have a new opportunity. Like, part of me wanted to just hire them on the spot because they
Right.
brought so much energy, and like, I think we can succeed with these guys. You know, we're thinking about different strategies on, you know, right now we're pretty good at keeping our machines going during the day, but we don't have the automation for them to run overnight.
Yep.
There's such a clear path to increasing our top line with a night shift. Dump floating to these young guys, like, well, we might have something immediately on a night shift, and like, I was expecting them to respond like, oh, well, I want to work days, or, you know, this place is hot. It's like, you know, it's not it's not pretty or the best work environment. They're like, sign me up. Like, I think they
Really?
would have started that night, like,
Really?
run a night shift. And
The one kid was so excited. He got here like an hour early and just waited out in the parking lot just to.
like, dude, call us next time. Like, our door is open. No, but it's, you know, if you're a shop out in Hatfield or Warminster or Quakertown, setting up a night shift is very difficult, because those operators that would prefer to be on day shift, if like they got moved to nights, they would probably just move to one of the 12 shops
Right.
in the same business park.
Yeah, that would
Like-
immediately hire them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, here in our bubble, in our labor market, like, we get to set the rules in a way, and I think we're still going to create meaningful opportunities and jobs that people can be excited about. And even if we're just a stepping stone for them, you know, maybe they start here and work night shift and get the experience that they need running this type of equipment and, you know, checking parts, the nature of the ones we're making. If they go and grab a job at a defense contractor in Pennsauken or a med device company out in Collegeville, like, great. Like, we help them get their journey started, and I think that's still a win for us. Whereas, you know, here are so many shops that don't have that talent pipeline, that they operate, I guess, in a fear of like losing their people. I don't know. You're nodding your head. I'm sure you see some of that.
Oh
like,
yeah, oh yeah. People, some guys are like bitter because of all the employees that have left, and it's like, well, I don't know. These guys are gonna do what's right for themselves. They're like, I understand, but I invested all this money. You know, it's like, that's not a great attitude.
I mean, we might just be like so new at this. You know, we're looking at it through kind of like rose-colored glasses,
Maybe.
but at the same time, if we had just set up in South Jersey or out in Bucks County, what would we have to offer employees? Like, I don't know. Like, we can't pay better than the other shops necessarily. You know, we've got good equipment, good systems, but I think it would have been a huge uphill battle for us to, you know, to find that talent that we know will need to succeed.
Just the location is, given the amount of people, and I mean, these kids that are probably within walking distance of our shop who are anxious to get in the industry. I lived in South Philly when I started machining and would commute an hour and a half plus every day each way, and you know, that was brutal. And if I had known a shop was 10, 15 minutes away from my house through public transit, I would have taken a massive pay cut, even though I was only getting $9 an hour.
But no, I'm worried we're overpaying you, John.
Once I was making a lot more in the industry,
Showing his cards.
outside of Philly, still commuting really far from my house, and I would have loved to have this place. You know.
We sell machining services, and those machining services are focused on 5-axis components or high complexity components that are going to fit within about a 6-inch cube work envelope.
But yeah, we use Fusion 360. It's a low cost solution, which was new to me at the time when we started, and so the first few months were pretty frustrating.
What, did you come off Mastercam or something?
Yeah, Mastercam.
I think we're in a lucky spot for machine shop software right now, where John and I really embrace Saas technologies. So it's, low barrier to entry, subscription. The vendor is handling the security, the data management. Like, it lets us use really powerful tools that are easy to get started with, and like Fusion 360 is a good example. And definitely put John through a bit of a learning curve. Like, we did not make things easy on ourselves.
Right.
So one thing that I love about Fusion 360, and I think it does a really nice job, is full machine simulation.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Right out of the box. Like, I don't have to do much to get this to run, and it's very accurate as long as you set your fixturing properly, and you get a little bit of upfront investment, which I was doing inside of Mastercam, but it just was a lot more work, and this is just with this machine, especially the Brother M300. It's a 5-axis mill turn. The trunnion's a lathe, but it spins away from you. It rotates away from you, so you can't really see what's happening on. A lot of people will say the dark side of the moon. So it's like having full machine sim just built into it has been super valuable.
So you can just program it and just run it right there, do crash detection, like all that stuff.
You have to specify your holder and your stick out of the tool. And,
but you probably have a pretty robust library, I'm assuming, with all your tool holding and stuff.
We're still working on building it out constantly, and we have a library that we manage through ProShop, and that makes it really great. We're working on some workflows that will. I don't want to have to be entering the data more than once. So we're building the setup inside of Fusion. I want Fusion to be able to output almost directly into ProShop the setup information, and we're pretty close. So, I mean, we had a process where we're entering that data in. Would take, if it's a multiple operations, we like to have a sequence detail of every tool path that's running. So the operator can just look on his screen and see, this is where I need to restart the program at this. But getting that data into the ERP was time consuming. So we went from maybe half an hour to 45 minutes of time just data entry, which is my time, which could be more valuable spent doing something else.
$9 an hour.
Yeah. So we then now have gotten that process down to a minute through some custom code solutions and stuff.
I would highlight this as an area where John embraced AI, just using ChatGPT. Like, a lot of manufacturing businesses think it's like, how are we going to use AI? And you see like big picture stuff, like what Cam Assist is doing for automating all the program, and their competitor Toolpath has a solution. But we're finding that like AI is probably more valuable just to automate some of the simple, like, routine remedial tasks and eliminate the need for a lot of admin burden.
So while we were talking, you guys just got a shipment of material here, which is a little bit outside your work envelope.
Yeah, of course I give this whole pitch on focusing on small 6-inch cube parts, and we get these 30-pound blocks of aluminum from our customer. John, you think that'll fit in our little brother machines?
We're going to get a bigger vise for it. We have a 77 millimeter Lang vise now, so you good? So, but we'll get the bigger one. But it actually does fit perfectly. The part is just by 50 thou within our work envelope.
Whoa.
So,
but we were talking about Cam when this delivery cut us off. Was there anything that you wanted to add there, John?
Not that I could think of. I'm still getting used to Fusion and from Mastercam. But
you think it's just as powerful, basically? You just got to learn the ins and outs of it?
I don't think it's as powerful, but in a way, it can be more powerful in some ways, but I think Mastercam will let you do pretty much whatever you want. You can find a workaround for anything, and where Fusion, I haven't found those workarounds yet. Maybe they exist to do. I was doing some really tricky deburring stuff or undercut stuff that neither cam package had a good solution for, but in Mastercam they had a lot of tools where you could kind of create things and make it work. Where Fusion is very much driven off the model, but that where the power comes into play with that is everything can become parametric. Your operations can, just by selecting a new stock and a new part model, the operation will adapt to that. And building a workflow around that, I can see being really saving a lot of time.
Nice.
And we just kind of have to conform to what Fusion has. Let it change the way I think a little bit, and I think it can end up being even more powerful. Yeah.
I know Mastercam is like 20 times the price or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think Fusion will continue to improve. I mean, it's
right.
probably a heck of a lot better than where it was in 2015 when you were first dabbling with it. And
I'm really not the guy to be talking too much about Fusion. I've only been using it for like 5 months.
Well, you're making some nice parts with it, so you're cobbling your way through it at a minimum.
Yeah. I mean, you can get started pretty quick with it.
These are both Brother M300s, 5-axis mill turn machines, really 4+1, so we're not doing any 5-axis simultaneous. The reason for choosing these, full disclosure, I used to work for Amazon, had a short stint there, and was selling the Brother machine tools. Probably drank a lot of the Kool-Aid on a high productivity 30 taper type machine. But I am a believer, and I think we're seeing results from it, that the 30 taper platform is highly reliable, extremely fast, and these machines help us tell a story where, compared to a lot of competitors in this market that might have more general purpose type equipment, big Haas VF4 with a 5-axis trunnion on it, like these M300s are going to help us achieve faster cycle times, more daily throughput. That ends up resulting in a cost savings we can pass along to the customer. There is a small increase in price point, from what you might see from a tool like Haas, but it's still very economical. These machines do have some challenges in reach. We run into Z-axis travel alarms pretty often when we're proving something out. We've definitely had to find some workarounds there, but we knew that coming into it. We knew there would be compromises along the way, and it's a differentiator for us to have this high productivity machining center. It'll support automation in the future, and we're really leaning hard into, and it doesn't look like we're set up right now. All 3 machines currently are just running raw stock, so we're loading a cut plate, in this case a bar, into laying workholding in the machine. But with most of our parts, if there is a second op, so one primary 5-axis machining op, and then likely a finishing op to hit the 6th side, we're setting up fixturing just right on pole studs. It's extremely interchangeable. It's something that will easily support automation in the future. So when we're loading workholding and setting up these fixtures outside the machine, it's not a huge leap to think that a year or 2 from now it could be a robot that's putting that workholding in the machine.
Yeah, cool.
So we have standardized on the Lang receiver plate. They've got the 52 and the 96 millimeter pole stud combinations. That was an easy choice for us, or at least one that once we made it, we haven't looked back. It just becomes the way we do things. Anything going in these 3 machines is going to be on pole studs, whether it's a device, fixturing that we've built. I mean, we were working with some vacuum fixturing, and even that was on pole studs. And it just really streamlines our setups. It helps where, I don't want to show off the part on this machine, but right now we're running that A side, that first operation, that's a 5-axis op. We've got maybe a dozen or so parts in that stage. Instead of running out our 150-piece order, running all A sides, what we'll do is probably later today switch to the B side, run out the B sides of what's queued, move all those parts through wash, get them packaged for our customer, really reducing WIP, improving the rate at which parts move through our shop. If we had to indicate in vices, that would be a lot more difficult to justify. But it's like zero downtime going from one part to the next. And
Yeah.
Like, I guess, yeah, you're in a lot of shops. Like, it always surprised me when there were shops that weren't using this technology. That's like, it's easily available to everyone. Like, we didn't invent it, but it just takes a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And that's something that like John and I get to kind of embrace with this clean slate.
I don't see a lot of shops use it, really.
The 0-point systems?
Not as many as you would think. Yeah.
It's been a huge time saver, just as far as switching setups. I proved out we were in production. We paused production for 1 minute while we switched, maybe 2 minutes while we switched jobs completely, so I could prove out a job that Matt could come in on the weekend and run. And then we went right back into production. Completely different fixtures, just that quick swappability. All those little changeovers add up.
Oh yeah.
I would
Huge.
add, even now, like one of the parts that finished production just a couple weeks ago, that first side was 120 minutes on the machine, and then the second op was closer to 20. If we were running that B side or the second op at 4 or 5 o'clock, there was always the mindset where before you walk out the door, whoever's the last one here, they switch back to that A side and let us get the extra hour of unattended runtime into the night, because that hour makes a big difference for our ability to be profitable and really maximize the number of machine hours that we're running. So, whether it's myself or John or Tom leaving, it was always the rule became, no matter what you're running, before you leave, set up an A side of this part in this machine just to keep the spindle turning for kind of bonus time at that point.
Cool. So these are really fast machines. They're drill tap style, right? With the tool changer, I guess? Or maybe you could tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's got the turret style tool changer. A lot of people think of Brothers maybe in the same way they think of a robo drill, where historically it was drill tap. You've seen some of the parts that we're running though, and like we're doing a lot more than drilling and tapping. We're using these as fully fledged 5-axis machining centers. I think down the road, would we love to have a Matsura or a Yazda or a DMG Mori? Maybe, but I think these things hit pretty far above their weight class in terms of the parts that they're able to make and the opportunities they open up. I think for us, they're kind of two types of parts where we can start creating value. It's in the parts that are very obviously 5-axis, so I was showing you a couple of those earlier, high complexity, features on all faces. Most people would look at them and say, okay, that's a 5-axis part, but where we're also helping our customers by identifying parts that in their supply chain currently might be made on that Haas VF2 that's a 3-axis, it goes through 4 or 5 work holdings. If we can do that in 2, even though this is a higher cost machine, it'll almost certainly be faster, it'll improve the quality outcomes, it's easy for the operator because you're not changing those work holdings all the time. Like, that's kind of the name of the game for us, and part of what inspired me to start a shop was that I was in shops that were frequently doing 4 to 5 work holdings to complete a part, and the technology's out there now where that's just frankly kind of wasteful. So.
Yeah. This machine is flying. That thing is fast.
Yeah. Small light cuts.
Yeah,
I don't think you can see.
Yeah, there's too much coolant to see much. And we're still trying to figure out how hard we can push these. Even running, like on the machine to the left here, we've got a pre-hardened 17.4 stainless. But our material removal rate for us still feels really solid. Like, we're making a lot of chips. Our cycle time is where we need to be in order to be competitive. Definitely a different methodology in tool path development, tooling strategy, but
so a lot of passes, light cuts, right? Just do it fast.
Yeah, exactly. This one might even be a better example. We could talk about this machine. Very intricate 3-axis part. This particular machine we added after we'd only been in business for a couple of months. Really what we saw is that there was demand out there to keep the 2 machines busy. 2 machines alone, though, weren't going to cover our overhead. So we were still not profitable, but we made the choice to double down on what we're doing. It's about to change pallets. Oh, no, it's not. Just kidding. Timer's stuck.
Yeah.
But in building out this value stream for smaller 5-axis components, we were finding that our customers were still having us quote a lot of 3-axis work. This is a twin pallet, 3-axis vertical. We were also seeing situations where we would have that first machining operation. That's where the bulk of our cycle time is. And then we're flipping the part to run it in a single finishing 3-axis op. The theory is use this machine to be competitive both on the 3-axis work, but also let it potentially do the simple 3-axis op very quick with lower operator intervention, and then that way we're not consuming the machine time on the potentially more bottlenecked 5-axis piece of equipment.
Right.
And we're rethinking our strategy perpetually. Like I was showing you earlier that we've got a one-piece flow set up here.
Yeah.
So on each pallet, we pull off 4 complete parts each cycle. There's an A side and a B side, and they're all fixtured. There's work we can do to add to part density, so we can scale it out further across the table and can probably do 8 complete parts per cycle. That'll help us get more unattended runtime. But flipping the part and doing the fixturing is quite tricky. It's very operator intensive. What I think would have been the better strategy is to have a table full of A sides where the bulk of the cycle time lies, set those up so they can almost run through the night, and then during the day leverage this machine to finish out the B sides that are a little more tedious and labor intensive.
Yep.
So
Gotcha.
I don't know. It's fun to always just kick around different ideas for like what can we be doing to make this faster and better utilize our resources.
Another way I could see this machine coming into play, because it has a bigger table than our 5-axis machines, and we are using the same 0-point system, we could have the Lang serrated vise, multiple setups on each table, where we say we have a lot of roughing to do on the A side, and we want to take that roughing away from the 5-axis machine.
Right.
We can bang it out overnight, maybe, and then just pick the whole vise up and put it into the 5-axis.
yeah.
So that's we haven't done that yet, but I can see that becoming.
Nope.
We haven't done it yet because we're bogged down on production of a 3-axis part, but it's all part of the same strategy to get good at parts fitting within this profile and use these machines working together rather than it be just, oh, we need a 3-axis machine, so let's get a 3-axis machine.
Right.
But I think the pallet's about to change, so you'll get to see just the speed at which
It's
we
got about
go
another-
from
more
one part
tool.
to the next.
This is the last tool right here. Just chamfering some things.
So I'm assuming same 30 taper.
Yep, same tool
All the
holder.
tooling is total.
And the adapter plated on this is filled up so that the Lang vise the Lang plate, subplate is sitting relatively in the same spot it is on the 5-axis as far as like Z travel goes.
Oh, okay.
So
your offsets.
no,
You're not worried about breaking the tool as much when you switch tools or something?
more so trying to think how if we do have a 3-axis operation on this and we're bottlenecked here, we can still run it on the 5-axis, and the fixtures will all be interchangeable without any travel limits.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the pallet swap in under probably 4 seconds.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely designed for speed. There's some interesting, like the tapping cycle is a little unique on this, probably from like the drill tap roots.
Sure.
But that's very streamlined, and then it will, is it G100? What's the
G100 is a tool call.
So there's has the ability to position the table simultaneous to performing a tool change or indexing a rotary. That can help reduce cycle times. I don't know how much we're actually saving where we choose to use it, but everything keeps moving, and instead of having your tool change while the table's sitting here and then repositioning the table after the tool changes, just part of the emphasis on speed and production machining.
Yeah.
The Brother machine, the tool changes are basically free. They're so fast.
Right.
They do offer a side-mounted tool changer with 40 plus tools.
What do you have in this one?
This is 28.
Okay.
That will have a side arm, which won't be as fast as
The dual arm changer.
Yeah, it's a dual arm.
Yeah.
So
I think this has been a fun machine just to watch run. The twin pallet setup for us was a no-brainer over just a standalone 3-axis machine. I think it really improves the life for the operator. Like, there's nothing worse than trying to keep that green light on, focusing on loading a part, and then simultaneous, like these two machines also finish their cycle. You're like, you can work really hard, but just not keep up. Like, having the twin pallet setup lets our operator or any of us kind of dictate the pace rather than the other way around. The price premium versus that standalone 3-axis, I think it's relatively small. but the gains we're able to achieve in overall uptime are pretty significant. Like this machine consistently hits 97, 98, 99% throughout the day for which we're staffed. And then having the extra table space means it can run later into the night. And even as we think about automation here, we could add some very low cost automation like a cobot. And a lot of times people would shy away from a cobot because they're slow. Well, the cobot doesn't need to be fast if it's loading a pallet that's waiting.
Right.
And automation is still notably absent from the 5-axis machines. I think of 5-axis inherently though being automated relative to like that scenario I described where it's multiple work holdings in a 3-axis. So this helps us get parts closer to complete in one shot. This helps us keep a spindle turning because it has that built-in pallet changer. So,
yeah. Awesome. So you would consider adding like a pallet changing system like an Aroa or something to these these Brother machines, or is that too far down the road?
It's on the wish list for sure. I think the challenge is that those systems, like I am a believer that there's an ROI on that 150, 180,000, whatever the investment works out to be. I think we would probably look at just buying a machine in the future that has automation built in, like maybe it comes with the pallet pool.
Right.
Buying the automation as a standalone, from what I've seen, is a little tougher to finance. So it would be a lot of cash out of the business to implement, and I think that's probably the scarier part for us right now. Relative to throwing more labor at it, I think we could immediately get an extra 20 hours of runtime. So the 3 machines running for 6 to 8 hours each with a second shift. Like the second shift is going to be much lower cost than that automation if we can find the right people and get the reliability that we need from that employee.
Yeah.
So it's not a big lift to keep in this current process 3 machines going with pretty low labor input, and that second shift employee wouldn't serve just one machine like the automation would.
Right.
He or she could keep them all going.
Yep.
So but that's kind of on us though to make it a situation where the process is well defined and simple enough that that employee can have a shot at success.
Yeah. So just big picture, ProShop, what does it do for you?
ProShop helps us manage our business. I mean, it's fundamentally it's an ERP system. I think it takes it a couple steps further and includes functionality that a lot of people would lump into MES and QMS, the manufacturing execution systems or quality management systems. Well, John and I didn't want to do anything that wasn't going to be legit. Like, we weren't going to start a fake business here. So, like, just to get into the weeds, like, this puts all the information that we should need at our fingertips. Like, when we talk about having parts move through the process, that can get very complicated if we're not extremely diligent, knowing, in this case, 69 have been shipped to the customer, 72 have gone through final inspections, so that should tell me they're 3 staged and ready to ship. 80 have come off the machine. If we had outside processes that we were managing, we would have the data to see exactly where those parts are. It's also going to give us great costing information, so all of our time is tracked against this. So we'll get our direct labor input costs, any items that we buy for the job or any tooling that we're expensing to the job, that's all rolled in here. So even something like having this billet of material for the fixture, like this cost is applied to this job. The pole studs that are going to go in it are going to be applied to this job.
Nice.
And that just helps us make smarter decisions and understand kind of in real time, are we winning or are we losing?
So it's a lot easier to just bake everything in and really see, did we make money on this job? Kind of deal. Absolutely.
And it's something too, it's easier to do now than it would be if we already had 10 employees and we're trying to grow. It's funny because Tom, like, he hasn't worked in another shop before. He'll get on me and John regularly about how we're tracking time. And like, he's holding us accountable because that's just the way we do things. That's part of us getting to set the culture and really get the most out of these systems for which we're investing. But just to get further into the process, so right now we're running the A side on this part. That's the main 5-axis operation. We can set up written instructions. We have tools to build out video instructions. We're not there yet on all of our jobs. This is one we haven't quite gotten there with. But one of the things that John was talking about earlier, getting data out of our CAM package and putting it into the system, we're going to do this a little bit differently, and this should be safe to show. Within the system, the operator can see each step within the program, the G-code tool number, so that's going to match to a tool in the machine. So this would be pocket 15 in the case of A30. This is a unique identifier within our tool library. So this tells us this is 3/8 end mill. We could click into it and see the, actually don't even have to click into it, we can see the location, so it's 31. So if an operator ran into an issue, he just has to now go to location 31 in our tool storage area, and it should have these 3/8 end mills that I believe are from AccuPro. We'd be able to go in, see the vendor, see the purchase history, like all of that is right there. And this is stuff that should make it easier for new people to come into this business and not necessarily need to be an expert from day one, but this can help be part of their success.
The cool thing about that too is it has the holder, it has the stick, the OOH is what ProShop calls it, out of holder distance for the tool sticking out. So all the setup information is there as far as tool setting goes. There's a spot plus your work holding. But again, that sequence detail is the sequence of the tools coming out, and with the automated process we have, I did not enter any of that data by hand.
Wow.
That just comes right out of Fusion and is imported through a CSV file.
Oh, cool. So in Fusion, you told it where it is in your tool cabinet.
Well, no, in Fusion, the product ID of the tool is the ProShop number. That's how we set it up. So that way, when it outputs the product ID into the header of the program, and the way that information is parsed to the sequence detail, it just puts the syntax for that product ID in, and then ProShop automatically links it to our location and our vendor.
Yeah.
And another great thing about the way this is on the work order level at the machine, if you say he went to location 31, he pulls the last tool, the operator could drive demand for a reorder right there at the machine. So, and then I guess Matt will get an alert to order that tool or whatever.
Yeah, so it all syncs together, and even though it's like we got 3 people, we should all have a pretty good pulse on how the business is running, but it's fun already seeing that, like, I don't have to get a message from John to order the tools that he needs. That's all driven through the system, and then this becomes our communication tool. And that will sustain itself ideally until, through the point at which we have maybe a dozen employees, or even further into the future. Like, we aren't gonna have to rebuild the system to come up with a method for ordering tooling. Like, we already have that pretty well defined. Just to highlight a couple other items that are helpful for an operator, we can define in-process checks and first article data. So on this A operation, we're not doing the full first article, but we are inspecting to a couple reference dimensions. Probably not a good example here. But when an operator is doing in-process checks, we can configure these within the system, and we've done on this work order, looks like 19 in-process checks so far. The operator really just has to follow these instructions, which features to check, which tool to use to check them. You don't even have to interpret like a micrometer reading. You can just enter the value that you get, because I am probably the most guilty of it here. Like, something needs to be 197 thou plus or minus 3, and I'm looking at it, it's like 204, like trying to do mental math,
right.
And like,
easy to make a mistake.
It's easy to make a mistake. And here they just have to enter the value, and it'll give them immediate feedback. If a part is out of spec, they can immediately create an NCR, so a non-conformance report. We'll be able to then disposition the part accordingly, and have great documentation along the way. So, if a customer asks us, like, what were we running these parts to? Well, I've got 100 different data points that I can now share with them. If they want to know our scrap rate, we could pull that in 3 seconds. Like, these are really powerful tools that help us make quick decisions, and we think will help us scale.
Yeah, that's amazing. I imagine it would be incredibly difficult for a shop that's 20, 30 years into to try to implement something like this.
Yeah, like a lot of these solutions we're using are they're not expensive, and I think, like, if you were a salesperson for ProShop, a lot of people would probably see the pitch and be like, oh yeah, I want this in our shop. But then the barrier to moving forward with it isn't the cost, it's who's going to put in the time, right, and energy to change culture and change processes. we have a really unique opportunity to get this stuff right from day one.
Yeah.
So being digital first, I think will be part of that, like acquiring that talent that we hope to find.
Yeah.
And being very data driven, this helps us accurately measure performance. And adding tools like MachineMetrics, I'm sure you saw the dashboard or caught that in a couple shots.
Yeah.
Everyone here gets to know if we're winning or losing in real time, if we're hitting targets. We're not just chaotically fighting fires all day, like thinking we're doing the right thing. Like, we're very strategically channeling our effort in a way that I think will give us good results, as opposed to a lot of shops where you can work really hard but still run into issues.
Crazy.
And I'll spare Tom from changing this part.
Bless you. He said.
This right now is showing us how many pieces we've produced based on an expected, and that's measured against the estimated time within ProShop. Right now, MachineMetrics and ProShop aren't talking to each other. I don't know if they ever necessarily need to. MachineMetrics is really smart about being able to read the program on the machine and then match the program to a library that would contain our expected cycle times and other part info. But if we wanted to look at just for today, this is since 8 a.m., which is generally about when John and I get in here. We're doing all right. So 97, 94, 96% utilization on vertical machining centers. Like,
That's time running.
this is just Spindle uptime since 8 a.m. today. And like, the green light being on is like the lifeline of our business. Every shop talks about different hourly rates. You go into a lot of these shops and like, more often than not, machines are not running.
Correct.
If we're able to run these machines harder and at higher levels of uptime, it helps us be far more economical. And I would all day long take an $80 effective shop rate, but we're running at 75, 80% against the $120 shop or $150 shop that runs 20% of the time.
Right.
So it's like, it's not rocket science. But if we can get really good at running these machines and then without adding a lot of overhead, achieve AS9100 or ISO 1345, we start pushing towards some of the higher value work and just be that much more profitable when we can kind of bump up our effective target hourly rate. So,
I mean, that is really impressive. That's like world-class machine shop to have that much spindle uptime.
I mean, yeah, well, 100% to max, right?
Yeah.
So like, we're not far off. But since you've been here, I mean, we've been spending our time talking to you, and like,
right, this machine's having stopped.
the machines are just doing their thing. Like, get out of their way, let them run, hit go on the process, and like, this is part of what gives me a lot of confidence that we'll be able to sustain our business here at American Precision Works. Because, like, to me, this is the whole point. I love days where I'm out on the road selling to customers or taking customer meetings, and I can look at my phone and see that John and Tom are here executing at an extremely high level. Like, there's almost no better feeling that, like, guys, we might have this. Like, we almost froze to death in February, but like, this is kind of the whole point, you know?
Oh, you guys are crushing it.
That's something we're trying to do, is leverage some 3D printing for organizational things, or low clamping force fixtures, or that don't need to be super accurate. Because the CMM will establish an orientation based on how the part is presented to it. It'll probe it and stuff. We got some fixturing storage over here on some shelves.
So these are your Lang base plates?
Yeah, some of them. So we're trying to define locations for all our fixtures as we use them, and they get a fixture number inside of ProShop. We're experimenting with some thermal labels that aren't working out, so we'll probably have to find a better way to label them.
Highlighting the fixturing, though, I think this is a good example. So this fixture sits on the 96 millimeter Lang pole studs. It was a little bit tricky to load this part. Like, loading consistently took 5 minutes apart, John?
Well, especially for some of these parts like this, these parts, yeah, definitely would be 4 or 5 minutes to load the part, make sure it's correctly seated.
And it's tricky to get it seated, but the system we developed, I shouldn't say developed, it's not that uncommon, but we made mirrored fixtures, and all the loading happens off the machine, and a part is staged. So when a cycle ends, you're pulling the whole work holding out, putting in the part that's staged, and that's a big boost to our ability to achieve high machine utilization rates.
Sure.
Because it would have been a nightmare if we had to try to load that kind of tricky fixture in the machine. It's not as comfortable. It's harder for an operator. It's harder to work as a team. Like, Tom was really the expert at loading parts on this fixture. He could have them staged, and then I could jump over if he's loading other parts and fill in the gaps and just put put this in on the pull studs. So it kind of shares the responsibility and just helps us operate.
And it just takes you 10 seconds to pop that into the pull studs or something?
Yeah, it's 10 seconds, and in the future a robot could do it. So
now, how are those Lang bases actuated? Is that an M-code like air thing? Or
no, with like a 8mm Allen key. Yeah, so we're just doing it by hand for now, and in the future we'll look at the automation, whether it's pneumatic or hydraulic.
Here's a good example. So like we had a tool break detection trigger and alarm here.
Okay.
So if we weren't in front of the machines all day, we might see that before we see the machine. But in this case, it didn't actually break. It was just a chip that was in the way. But another cool thing about having the data.
Right. Yeah. So your chip management here. This is what you were telling me. It's just the wash down to get the chips out of the machine into this chute, right?
Yeah, so just a wash down. I mean, if we got a chip conveyor, I think that passive chute would be swapped for an active system.
Okay.
But there is a nice wash down in the machine, so you could just flood the whole machine with coolant. Right now, that's not active. We're running the through Spindle high pressure coolant instead. But we just have to be conscious of, within our programs, adding the M code periodically to do that, that full chip flush.
You have chip fans? You do any of that stuff? No.
Not a huge fan of the chip fans.
Not a fan of them?
Yeah, no pun intended. But I just feel like they blow chips everywhere.
Get them up in spots they shouldn't be.
Yeah, especially in the tool changer like this, where all the tools are right near the spindle, and the probe is in there. I don't want the probe getting hit with chips all the time.
Yeah. Well, we really don't need the chip fan, because we've got the 5-axis. We can just dump the trunnion.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't always do that. Sometimes we just let chips pile up, and I think a couple times now I posted videos of us where we think we're doing cool machining things, and then we'll get comments that are just the worst chip management ever. Why aren't you guys doing it this way?
Just dump it or whatever.
One step at a time. We're happy that our spindles are turning. We're making chips.
I know about the haters on the internet. There's 2 people that always give me a thumbs down on my videos. What does this do for you?
Well, I'm sure we'll find a way to get some extra thumbs down in this one. But I mean, I perpetually have to remind myself, maybe it's not even a reminder, we're embracing the Philly mentality and the Philly culture, which it's very outspoken, it's in your face. We want our customers to like us, but as far as everyone else is concerned, no one likes us, we don't care. We'll attribute that one to Jason Kelsey and just go on with our lives. So.
and the goal is not to make the most the best process around chip management or the most pretty looking fixture that we can make. It's about getting good parts to the customer as fast as possible. So we have to make some compromises in some areas.
There's only so much things you can focus on at once, and you do one at a time.
Yeah, definitely big. It always reinforces kind of the 80-20 rule, and knowing when we've got a process good enough to get started and then continuously improve it, versus maybe wait until we have the right process, or sometimes out of necessity we have caught ourselves skipping steps and have to be kind of conscious of no, let's go back and systematize that. But I don't know, one of the biggest things that wears on me is in a new business, it's just decision fatigue. Everything we're doing, we're trying to figure out for the first time. And I could just think back to some of the early days where we finally had parts that were ready to ship, but we needed
It's
boxes for them.
oh frick.
Shit, what kind of boxes should I get? There are a million boxes to choose from, and it really doesn't even matter. Just pick something to move forward.
Right.
But it gets exhausting after just so much of it.
It's funny here in the early days when we're 6 months in.
Early days.
What they were
5 months ago, right? Yeah. I'm honestly shocked at what a high-class operation you guys have put together in 6 months. I mean, this is very, very, very few shops, I would say, are at your level of processes, and they're 30, 40 years ahead of you.
Well, I mean, that's something that it's part of our selling point to customers is that a lot of these shops are reliant on legacy, and they've built great businesses, but that same legacy also means that they're set in their ways and maybe they're not embracing new technology or moving at the rate for which we can move. And we still have a lot of stuff to figure out. It's, there's no guarantee in this world, and I'd say we're still in overall like a fragile state. Like, so many businesses fail 90+% before year one, or 50% in the first year. I don't know the exact number, but it's kind of bleak, and I guess we still have a lot of work to do to make sure we hit 12 months and hit 24 months, and I think we're gonna have to go a lot longer than that for this like to all be worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, cool. You got a big American flag. I mean, that's cool. Big on American manufacturing. This is the type of stuff we got to do.
Like
to
a size
be competitive.
comparison.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was a little, maybe a little larger than what we needed, but we're here to do big things. And I love telling the story on this. Part of the reason that we did choose to splurge, like, Philly is the birthplace of America. The Betsy Ross house is probably 3 miles that direction. But also just as a testament to Philly manufacturing, like there's still a lot of really cool stuff that is made here and people don't realize it. Like when we got that flag, John and I didn't Google on Amazon like US flag. We literally walked to the flag factory that's 3 blocks down the road and picked it up. And like this came from a facility that has a history dating back to the 1800s. The company, Metropolitan Flag and Banner, they got their start making Conestoga wagon covers. Like when people traversed America and needed a tarp to go on their wagon, they made it. Now they're still operating today in Kings Essing, making products like this one. For me, it was a good enough excuse to spend more of our budget than we should have on a flag, but like support our hyper-local supply chain here in the neighborhood. And they started making Conestoga wagon covers. We're making parts that go into outer space.
At my last shop, we had a flag that was smaller than this, and made in like Taiwan or something, and it was missing a star.
Did we count? Do we know how many stars are on this?
I didn't count them, but I'm sure there's 50 there.
I don't know. Did they have an ERP system to check their process?
That shop had a lot of great technology of their own. I mean, you can't.
They replaced the flag, but the first one we got was missing a star. We were all like, what the heck?
Kind of joke, like, oh, we're on the wrong side of the track. So like, well, factually, we're between 2 tracks. There are tracks over here, there are tracks over here, there's a junkyard there, there's a junkyard over there, there's a housing project over there. And it's not always the most inviting. Like, and even I am not going to feel comfortable often waiting on the corner for the trolley after dark. But there are also so many bright spots in the neighborhood that you'll miss if you just drive into our facility and immediately drive out. Like also across the street is the first botanical garden in the U.S. It's a spot called Bartram's Garden. Like the founding fathers would go there to escape. In colonial era, the city was mostly concentrated along the Delaware. So this was like an oasis that has just a beautiful property, old colonial home, great views of the city. Like a lot of people that I know that live in Philly don't even know it exists, but that's where I'll go. If we don't have an office in here, if I need to make calls, I'll just head out, do a lap in the park, and like I think everything within the city kind of operates on extremes. It's either really good or really, really bad.
I'm Tom. I'm the operator here. I was in retail management for a good 10 years. I was at GameStop, then I was in self-storage, and I just felt like I was wasting my time. Was looking to get into a skilled trade. Threw my hat in the ring for a couple local unions. It's so hard to get into right now. So I decided I actually got to connect through my brother, who knows Matt.
So how long have you been here?
I've been here for about 3 months.
Okay. And what did you know about this industry before working here? Nothing.
Nothing. No.
Did you even know what a machine shop was if somebody asked you?
No.
Okay.
No, honestly, I would have pictured someone grinding like metal with
sparks flying.
Sparks flying.
Welding,
Not this.
Right.
Not this at all. Yeah, so far it's been a very enjoying experience. Working with my hands is what I was really looking for, and that's what I'm doing.
So you find that more fulfilling than what you were doing before?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it was customer service, so it was soul crushing.
Right.
And I'm also learning a skill, and those are the two things that I wanted the most. I wasn't learning, and I was just not working with my hands, which was really, giving me a meaning to go to work.
Right.
So coming here, I learn a little bit every day about the industry, working with my hands. Feel like I'm earning my keep, and yeah.
Well, based on the machine utilization and uptime of this shop, I mean, you're obviously doing something right here.
Yeah, the lights are green,
Yeah.
so I'm happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I work too hard, but it makes the day go by fast.
You like your day of work?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, like it goes by like that. Like there's never a time when I'm kind of just counting the clock and waiting for the time to go down.
There's got to be something that sucks about it.
Yeah.
Like what?
My hands. I keep cutting my fingers. Sometimes the coolant will burn, but that's just the job.
But the sucks are less than the retail, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I haven't been yelled at once, and I haven't had to like finagle my way out of just someone being upset with me.
Yeah.
Matt and John are always happy with me, so this has been great.
So yourself 8 months ago.
Talking to myself 8 months ago?
Yeah.
Do it. Find a shop. Find a local shop. Get into it.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that, I think when you're looking for an operator, or when as someone that is an owner or whatever, some things you can teach, and some things you kind of have to accept that aren't there or whatever. But one of the biggest things in the shop is just awareness, being able to listen, hear for if something bad is happening on the machine, aware of your parts because you're inspecting them, being able to catch a problem before it's a problem. And I gotta say, Tom has just been excellent at that. He's attuned to the noises of the shop almost right away. He cares about the parts. He
Takes pride in his work.
He definitely takes pride in his
Yeah.
work, and we couldn't be happier with his progress so far. And you got to keep on me to keep pushing you to the next level. But
yeah, cool. You're gonna kick him out of the
I'm
programming
gonna
seat here,
I'm gonna be in
right?
his chair soon. Yeah.
well,
good.
there's be another chair.
Yeah, there'll just be another chair. That's right. That's
You're gonna
right.
fill it with
There's
machines
room.
and-
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Paid.
Yeah.
Knowing that, what I'm doing actually matters.
Right.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's probably cool to see stuff like out in the world. You're like, I make a part for that, right?
Yeah. One of these days, I'll see one of the parts that I had in my hands, and I'll let someone know I made that.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, congrats.
Thank you.
Thanks for your insight.
Of course.